COVID-19 vaccines. COVID-19, also known as Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus 2, has infected over 113 billion people worldwide, resulting in over 1.5 billion deaths as of March 1, 2021. In mild cases, common symptoms include fever, cough, sore throat, headaches, fatigue, muscle and body aches, loss of smell or taste, nausea, and diarrhea. Some infections can be severe and even fatal. These infections can be due to underlying conditions, or in some cases, the virus leads to severe respiratory issues. Multiple variants of the virus have been identified since December of 2020, including one in the UK, one in South Africa, and another in Brazil. These variants may cause complications in treatment as they are due to mutations of the virus. The only current treatment in the US are vaccines that were issued in EUA.
The vaccines approved at the moment fall into two categories, mRNA and viral vector. Neither of them contain the live COVID-19 virus, but they still provide the antibodies needed to fight it. The viral vector vaccines have been used since the 1970s for things such as gene therapy and cancer. The way that they work is that they use a modified virus known as a vector to trigger cells' production of spike proteins. It will enter the cells and use it to create the proteins, which promotes the immune system to create antibodies. It is important to note that spike proteins are what's found on the outside of the COVID-19 virus, and it is what allows it to enter your body and infect it. On the other hand, mRNA vaccines have been used for decades for things such as flu and Zika. The way that they work is that they use RNA to encode for these proteins and then create antigens. It enters the cell and uses it to create the proteins, which promotes the immune system to create antibodies that will fight against it. It does not affect nor does it interact with the DNA, and more importantly, the mRNA is destroyed after the antibodies are made. The benefit for both of them is that you've never come in contact with the actual virus, but you still get the antibodies. The approval process for the COVID-19 vaccine differs from previous ones because it doesn't have a full FDA approval. Instead, it has an emergency use authorization, also known as an EUA. They are only issued when the product must be made available due to an emergency and when there are no other options. Clinical trials must show that the vaccines are safe and effective before receiving approval and that the benefits outweigh potential risk. The FDA guidelines have the following rules, among many others, to ensure the quality and effectiveness of the vaccine while issuing an EUA. They must meet the same requirements as other vaccines. Development can only be accelerated by building on previous vaccines of similar nature, and studies should include an evaluation of humoral, cellular, and functional immune response as appropriate to each of the included COVID-19 antigens.
The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is an mRNA vaccine that was issued in EUA. The mRNA encodes the SARS-CoV-2 spike antigen and is delivered to the cells via a lipid nanoparticle. The immune system then responds by producing antibodies that will be used if the body comes into contact with the virus. The vaccine is administered in 2 doses, 28 days apart. According to the FDA, it has an efficacy rate of 94.1%. In a randomized placebo-controlled double-blind study, half of the participants were administered the vaccine and the other half received the placebo. Although both groups had cases of infections, the placebo had many more cases total, as well as more severe cases. There are some limitations of the vaccine. It is only available to individuals over the age of 18. There is a short duration of the safety and efficacy follow-up. It must be stored and transported at freezing temperatures. There is insufficient data to determine if the vaccine prevents the spread of the virus or if it just reduces asymptomatic cases, and it is unknown how effective it is on the variants.
2 mRNA vaccines were tested. The one now being used is the second version, BNT162b2. BNT162b2 is an mRNA vaccine much like the Moderna vaccine. It works by carrying the mRNA, which has instructions for making the spike protein of COVID. When it is injected, the mRNA gets swept up by macrophages at the site of injection. These macrophages are given the instructions and make the spike protein. The spike will then be on the surface of the macrophages, which induces an immune response. This is an imitation of how our body fights infection. So when the body is actually exposed, there's a pre-programmed immune response to SARS-CoV-2, which will protect the vaccinated body from infection. There is no live virus, and even the mRNA is degraded by the body's enzymes in time, so you are left with just the ability to fight the infection and no remnant of COVID from the vaccine. In the trial phase, about 44,000 participants 16 and older were given either the placebo or vaccine. The makeup of participants were varied about equally in age and sex, but not in race. Race-wise, they were over 80% white, but hopefully as more people get the vaccine, there will be more data involving non-white people. The participants were monitored to see whether they were infected and the severity of infection and symptoms. According to the trial, after just one dose began some protection against COVID-19. After the second dose, there was a 95% efficacy rate against COVID-19 infection, and even those who were infected experienced lesser symptoms. Some risks and limitations include the fact that during trial, the vaccine was given to healthy and medically stable people, and the fact that it is largely unknown whether vaccinated people can be carriers of the virus, despite less chance of catching it, which is why masks and social distancing are still advised for vaccinated people.
On the topic of concerns after the vaccination, you may feel certain symptoms such as pain or swelling in the arm, fever, chills, fatigues, or even headaches. However, you do not need to show these symptoms in order to know the vaccine worked, and they do not suggest that you have the virus. However, if these symptoms persist after a day, you may want to call your doctor. For those with underlying conditions, such as a weakened immune system or autoimmune conditions, there isn't enough information on whether these vaccines are safe for them, and there may be a reduced immunity responses to the vaccine itself. These vaccines do not seem to pose a problem for those who are currently pregnant or want to become pregnant in the future. However, there isn't enough information as of now. Now for those with allergies. It is recommended to read the ingredients list to the approved vaccines. If one is allergic to either polysorbate or polyethylene glycol, the vaccines aren't recommended. If one has severe reactions to any of the other ingredients, do not take the vaccines. Ask your doctor if you should take the vaccine if you're allergic to a vaccine for another disease. If you have any allergies unrelated to vaccines, such as a food allergy, the vaccines are recommended.
An additional COVID-19 vaccine that was recently approved is the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine by Johnson & Johnson. The FDA issued an EUA approval for the United States. This vaccine uses a viral vector of the adenovirus type 26 to deliver the gene that produces the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2. The adenovirus is altered and can't cause illness. In a trial of around 40,000 participants from the United States, Latin America, and South Africa, the vaccine was 67% effective against moderate to severe symptoms after 14 days, and then 66% effective after 28 days. This shows a 77% efficacy rate after 14 days and an 85% efficacy rate after 28 days. The benefits of this vaccine are that it is only a single dose of 0.5 milliliters, and it can be transported and stored at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Some limitations are the fact that it is only for individuals 18 or older, and there is insufficient data to know how long protection will last.
One of the failed vaccines is the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, made by AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford. It uses an adenovirus to insert the genes of the virus so that the cell makes the spike surface protein of COVID-19, which then triggers immunity responses. The vaccine has produced confusing results so far, doing well against the variant B.1.1.7 found in the UK and is now spreading throughout Europe. However, it only had an efficacy of 21.9% against the new variant B.1.35.1 found in South Africa. The vaccine is now on hold, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine instead taking its place.
Some information to clear misinformation is that mRNA vaccines cannot alter your cell's DNA or enter the nucleus. If you have had the virus, the vaccine is still recommended as it's unknown how long one is protected from the virus, and this will further build up your immunity. If you are already sick, you should recover while following CDC criteria for discontinuing isolation. If you get the disease after the first shot, the same rules above apply before getting the second shot.
Continuing on. Do precautions still need to be taken even after taking the vaccine? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is that a 90% effective vaccine means a 10% chance that you can still get infected. Therefore, while the chance of transmission has been cut down, you can still transmit the virus to others, even if severe symptoms aren't seen. So different specialists have said to keep your social distance, wear your mask, maybe socialize a bit more, but don't overdo it. If someone you know has had the vaccine, any hugs and kisses should be quick and short.